8 minutes. That's the entire window he needed. A 15-year-old walks off the bench in Stockholm, pulls on a Manchester United shirt and jogs onto the pitch. His name is JJ Gabriel, and in that instant he becomes the youngest player ever to wear this shirt in a competitive first-team match. 15 years, 299 days old. Read that again, because it isn't a misprint. It happened live inside a 2-1 comeback victory over Atletico Madrid. But strip away the feel-good headline for a second, because this is bigger than one kid getting a late cameo in a friendly. This is a message. Michael Carrick just told the entire footballing world exactly what kind of manager he's building toward heading into 2026-27. Once you connect the dots, Stockholm stops looking like a one-off. It's a single thread inside a much larger web of transfer moves, internal reshuffling, and squad decisions unfolding right now at Old Trafford. So what's actually on the line here? United go into this season carrying real pressure to prove last year wasn't a mirage. Remember, the title charge only kicked off once Carrick took over mid-season during a rough patch. That leaves an obvious question hanging over everything. Was that run genuine, sustainable progress, or just a caretaker bump that flatters to deceive? Every call Carrick makes this pre-season, from his starting 11 to who he throws on with minutes to spare, gets weighed against that exact question. Get the squad balance wrong, tip too far toward youth or too far toward experience, and the fallout isn't theoretical. It shows up in dropped points, shattered confidence, and a fan base already worn down by years of chaos, which is exactly why the reaction to a teenager coming off the bench tells you something much bigger about where this club is headed. Quick pause before we go deeper. If you want every one of these stories broken down in full, the transfer sagas, the captaincy shake-up, the breakout names to watch, hit subscribe right now. This channel digs deeper into Manchester United than anyone else out there, and you will not want to miss what's coming. Now let's get into it properly. Every detail here is laid out exactly as it's been reported, and then I'll tell you what it actually means. Pep Guardiola just fired a warning shot at the rest of the Premier League. Straight to the point, no hedging. He said most pundits have already crowned their title favourites, and almost none of them picked Manchester United, and he called that a serious mistake. His reasoning: last season, United emerged from nowhere and only became genuine title contenders once Carrick arrived mid-campaign. This time around, he argued, United start the season already established, already organised, with reinforcements added on top. He flatly labelled them major contenders for 2026-27. Here's why that matters. When a manager with Guardiola's singles out a rival before a ball's even kicked competitively, that's not small talk, that's respect turned the hard way. And notice what he's actually praising. Not raw talent, but preparation. He's separating a team that stumbled into form under crisis conditions from one that now has a full summer to build real structure. That gap matters enormously. Accidental improvement tends to fade. Deliberate improvement tends to compound. Guardiola is essentially saying United have crossed over from the first group into the second. Think about how rare that is. Managers rarely call out a specific rival by name before the season has even properly begun. Most stick to vague platitudes about every team having quality and taking it one game at a time. Guardiola skipped all of that. He named United specifically, and he did it in a way that suggests he's already run the numbers in his head. So ask yourself this: if the manager who's dominated this league for the better part of a decade is worried about United before a ball's kicked, what does that tell you about how the rest of the dressing rooms across the Premier League are reacting behind closed doors? Next up, transfer chatter. United are reportedly sniffing around Arsenal left-back Miles Lewis-Skelly, testing whether the Gunners would even entertain a conversation, and this is happening alongside a separate, ongoing pursuit of Lewis Hall. Arsenal, for now, want to keep hold of Lewis-Skelly, though that could change depending on their own incoming business. My read? This isn't a negotiation, it's reconnaissance. United are dipping a toe in the water to see if there's even a door to knock on, and running that alongside a completely different left-sided target tells you they're hedging their bets rather than betting everything on one name. Treat it as an early inquiry, nothing more, until Arsenal's stance actually shifts. On the Lewis Hall front specifically, reporter Ben Jacobs says that if Hall himself asks Newcastle for an exit, United will be first in line to sign him. Notice the condition baked into that sentence. This isn't United trying to prize a player away against his club's wishes. It's a scenario that only activates if the player pushes for the move first. If that happens, United are apparently the frontrunners. But until Hall makes that move, this stays firmly in speculation territory, not an active pursuit. Back to where we started. JJ Gabriel is now officially the youngest player in Manchester United's history to feature for the senior side at 15 years and 299 days old. And I want to sit with that number a little longer, because the real story isn't the age record itself. Academy pipelines at massive clubs are often more marketing than substance. Plenty of prospects train alongside the first team and never sniff actual minutes. The fact that Carrick pulled the trigger in a genuinely competitive fixture against a side like Atletico Madrid tells you this isn't lip service. He's willing to gamble on youth even when the stakes are real. That's a statement, not a gesture. Meanwhile, Bayern Munich are still keeping tabs on United striker Benjamin Sesko as a long-range target, with suggestions they could reopen talks if he struggles to settle into English football. He remains on their shortlist as they plan life after Harry Kane, but don't mistake this for urgency. Bayern aren't trying to destabilize him now. They're simply keeping his name filed away for later, contingent on how his first Premier League season actually goes. File this one under background noise, not breaking news, unless his early form takes a real dip. Then there's the captain. Galatasaray are reportedly prepared to match Bruno Fernandes's wage demands in a move to lure him away. His current deal runs to June 2027, and he's pulling in roughly £300,000 a week, north of $15 million a year. The Turkish champions are said to be pushing hard, but let's be precise here. Being willing to match his salary is not the same as Fernandes wanting out, and it's definitely not the same as United agreeing to sell their captain. One club showing financial readiness is a world away from an actual negotiation, let alone a done deal. With over a year still left on his contract, United hold all the leverage in any conversation that might eventually happen. File this strictly under interest, not imminent departure. Elsewhere, reports suggest Jose Mourinho wants out of Real Madrid, believing he and Rodri overlap too much positionally to function side by side. This one has nothing to do with United directly, but given how tightly Mourinho's name is tied to this club's history, and given how a tactical reshuffle at a club the size of Real Madrid can ripple across the entire market, it's a thread worth keeping an eye on, even if it's not United's business yet. United are also weighing a move for German forward Nicolo Tresoldi, valued around €50 million, as Carrick continues shaping his attacking options. That price tag tells you something about the recruitment strategy right now. They're chasing proven, developing talent from top European leagues, not necessarily headline-grabbing superstar signings. It reads less like a marquee statement and more like long-term depth building. On the outgoing side, Everton are reportedly preparing a formal bid for 20-year-old striker Ethan Wheatley. This one's less about incoming reinforcements and more about what it reveals regarding forward-line depth. If United are open to letting a 20-year-old striker leave, that suggests either a blocked pathway to first team minutes or a willingness to cash in on a player who doesn't fit the immediate plan, until Everton's approach is confirmed as formal and accepted, though this remains interest, not a done transfer. It also raises a fair question worth sitting with: how many young forwards can one squad realistically carry before somebody has to move on? And is Wheatley about to become the latest example of a promising academy story that ends up written elsewhere?